Okay, so we're here with our American Server Manager window open. You can go ahead and probably open that from your desktop if it's here. This is the icon. If not, you'll have to go into your system folder in America's Army. So we'll go ahead and go through creating a new server setup. As you can see, I already have a couple set up here, so this is where they'll put them more when you're done. But to create a new setup, the first thing it asks is you want to create a tournament setup or a standard button. Tournament setups if you're doing like TWL tournament or a scrimmage. But you can turn your server to that later in your admin panel. So we're going to go ahead and create a standard server. We'll do an America's Army default internet server. You can select that. This is where you choose your map, and you can do two things. You can leave that as no, and you can choose your map in this drop-down window. We'll go ahead and choose FLS Assault. Or we can hit yes here, and it opens up this whole other section. And what it's asking here is for us to add different maps to this list, and anything in this list it'll rotate through. And it asks us here, how many matches do you want to have players complete before switching maps? The standard match is 7 rounds. You can change that later, but we'll leave that at 1. But as you can see, you can do it any number 1 through 10. So we're going to add but we're going to go back and go ahead and just do 1 map. If you want to do 2 maps or multiple maps, you'd like FLS Assault, Interdiction, you just hit this arrow key. Now if you accidentally did something wrong, you can hit that arrow key and move it off. If I want Pipeline to be first, I can hit the up arrow on it, or if I want it to be second, there, and I can add as many maps here as I want. Go ahead and remove those and hit no here. We'll leave it on Mountain Pass and go ahead and next. Okay, players per team. So double this number is the total players on server. So you can have up to 30 players on server, and as few as 2 players on server. So for a little bit slower computer, you want probably 4 or 5 because it won't be able to hold more players. For a better computer, maybe 10. Player password, if you put a password here, the player has to enter it before logging onto the server, so it becomes a private server and is no longer tracked. I'm going to go ahead and leave that blank because I like a tracked server, though unless you pay for Honor, it will not be an Honor server. Now it gives you this warning here saying the player password is not entered. This means you're creating a public server. Just making sure you realize what you're doing. Go ahead and click yes there. And this is where we change the match length. So, or rounds per match. When going anywhere from 1 round per match to 25. Like I said earlier, 7 is standard round length. We put this on Mountain Pass, so 10 minutes is probably pretty good. Something like Bridge, you want closer to 7 or 8. Just depends on the size of the map. If you have any questions on that, you can look that up on TWL to see what their standards are, or ask an admin what that usually is set to. Admins per server. This basically it says how many admins are allowed to log on to a server at once. Later on, we'll be able to set any number of admins, and so this says if all 10 of them are on the server, at most 6 of them could be admins, or only the first person on the server could be an admin. I don't care. I'm just going to set it to 6. Here, this gives you a default password, but I suggest you do your own password that you can remember and is very, very secure. There's a lot of programs out there to hack servers, so it needs a couple things. It needs numbers, it needs letters, capital and lowercase, and it needs equal signs, dashes, periods, commas, something. The more different kinds of characters you have in it, the more secure it's going to be. So we'll do here my server like that. That's my server, and we'll do like 1, 2, 3, 4. Just to make it, or if like you could do, if this is your number 1 server, you could do my server 1. If you have another server, you could do my server 2. Though you'll have never more than 1 server running at a time. So just one number is fine. Okay. Now you can see I can hit next and have no issues there. If I just did Bob, I hit next, it would give me this thing. So the administrative password you entered is not very secure. You should have at least 4 characters that include. So it gives you all these different things that you should probably include in your password. Do you want to use this password anyway? No. We're going to go ahead and change it back to my, actually we'll do underscore server, just get another symbol in there, and we'll put a 1 in there. Go ahead and hit next. Do you want it internet or LAN? Internet, obviously, is anyone in the world can access it. LAN is on your local area network. And no one outside your home or your local area network can access it. We'll go ahead and leave it internet there. And would you like to appear in game browser? Yes. Auto-determine IP is not needed for an internet server, so go ahead and hit next. Server name. This is the name that appears in browser when someone's looking up your server. So I name all mine Christian Gaming. So there we go, Christian Gaming. Next. Now, server setup name, it's a little different. As you can see here, it gives a big long thing. I like 2 things in my server setup name. Mountain Pass, and whether it's an internet or a LAN server. And when I say Mountain Pass, I mean the server, what map that server is set up for. So Mountain Pass, internet. Go ahead and hit next. This, you can review, this is all the information that's on your server. Go ahead and click Advanced Server Setup Options after clicking Finish. So what that'll do is open some advanced settings that you can set admins and other things. Okay, we hit Finish and we open up our advanced settings. Again, we see our server name, the notes, the browser name, server short name does not matter. Your region, go ahead and set that. So Northwest US or Canada, where I am. Admin name, admin email, that's for if people want to contact you, I believe. Oops, I forgot an equal sign here, so we'll go ahead and put that in. The server administrators, that's for that in internet or LAN, so you can change it afterwards. Enable static logging, doesn't really matter. Auto-determine IP, again, I don't need that. Port to use for your server, 1716 is fine. That's the default server port. It'll be easiest for people to get in. Admin, player admins. This is people that can log onto your server as a normal player and be an admin. So go ahead and put your name as it appears in game. This guy. So that's how my name appears in game, and go ahead and hit player admin, and you can see it adds this name up here. Now you can add as many people as you want. If you actually start running a server constantly and you have a longer list of admins, what I would suggest is you create a file of all the admin names, and so every month or whenever someone gets promoted, you go in, you update that admin name, and then you copy and paste it directly into there so you know you got everything right, and then you can just, if I wanted to remove an admin, I can click on the admin name and hit remove here, and then I apply to change it, obviously, permanently. Tournament options here. This is where you set up your tournament. We'll go over these options later. Tournament team is where we set up the teams for the tournament more. You can alter the map that your server is set to be on. Match here, this is again, you change your rounds per match, round length. Gaming mode, you can force live fire or force miles. We'll leave that on default. If you want to turn on a cheat server, you can click it right there, allow multiplayer cheats. Everyone wants this on. Disable player shadows. Player shadows make the server very laggy, and they take up a lot of memory on player and server that doesn't need to be taken up. Scoreboard options, default of 99% of the servers out there is always available. Anytime you want to see your scoreboard and what your score is in game, you can hit it. some reason people like turning it off. So during round, so scoreboard at the end of the round. This is sometimes for tournaments, I guess, so you can't see who on your team's died. I don't know. Only at the end of the match. So at the end of 7 rounds, always off. You can never see it. It's, as it says, rarely used. Okay, player. Game password, again, if you want to make it private, that's where you set it. Maximum players on server, 20. Players per team, 10. Obviously, this number should always be double that number. Minimum players to start round. So if you want to not allow it to start with only the server to start with only 1 person on it, you can set it to 2, or you can set it to 6. But personally, it doesn't really matter. Set it to 1 if someone wants to go screw around on your server and practice something. Let them. Minimum to maximum honor. Standard is 10 to 100. 100, you can't get anything over 100 honor, but if you want to make a noob server, so only new people, you can set it to 20, whatever you want. So go ahead and I'll set that at 100. Enable auto balance teams. This makes sure there's the same number of people in each team. That's not 1 against 20 or 19 in my case. Balance teams between each round, yes, and force new players to join the smallest team, yes. Player groups allowed on server. If you want to make your server so only people in the Army can join it, choose that right there, or only in the Navy or the Air Force, or whatever you want, or only retired people. Whatever you guys want. All is normal. Co-op maps. This is for if you're running Snake Plane or Interdiction, where you're playing against the computer, which for most servers it takes a lot more because the server's got to run all those NPCs. But this sets a max on how many people you can have against you. I set it to default usually. The ratio, like a 5 to 1 ratio, a 5.0, means for every 1 player you have, there's 5 NPC, I believe is what that means. I leave them to default. That's usually pretty good. Spectators. How many the maximum spectators you can have on your server? They will slow down the server a little bit, so maybe 4. But most people don't join the server just to watch. That would be mostly controlling admins. Admins can log in as a spectator. First person only. Though some people will not play this. Though this is mostly for server, tournament setups. When you have a tournament going, you don't usually want spectators because they can ghost on the other team. Now, if you're allowing spectators, I would suggest use first person only. That means they only can look through their team's eyes, and it's harder to ghost. Mute spectators, that means they can't talk and chat. Doesn't really matter. I would leave those 2 middle ones. HUD options. This is your optics, your binoculars, your radar, weapons, how many bullets you have, your compass. This, if you want to turn it off, you can click this stuff. Most servers turn it on. Some servers hide death messages. It makes it more realistic, so you can't see if the enemy you're shooting at died or if he just ducked behind that pillar. Ammo count. You don't know how much is in your weapon now. Most soldiers would be able to feel the weight of their weapon, but you can't do that in game, so it's up to you. Any of these choices are pretty much up to you. Row kick. If you can set your server to kick an idle player based on idle rounds. I would do 2 because a lot of times people they'll camp in tower and they'll say they're idle. Idleness is based on where you start and where you end. If you end in the same vicinity that you started, it says you're idle. Even if you ran around the entire round and then came back to your original location, it'll say you were idle. So sometimes that can accidentally happen, so I wouldn't suggest setting it to 1. Some servers give a little more leniency on 3. I prefer 2. I hate idle players. Kicked idle players based on time, 5 minutes. That's a little tight just because that's a standard round, especially from Mountain Pass we said 10. But usually they don't go the entire time, so we'll say like 8. We'll set it to 10. We'll be a little lenient today. Kick idle spectators if they haven't joined a team. Again, spectators can make your server lag, but if you allowed spectators back here, there's no point in saying kick idle spectators, because then you're just canceling out everything you set up here. So if you want to allow spectators, go ahead and allow them. If you don't want them to clog up your server, click them here. Enable row kick. What row kick does is if they get, in this case, friendly fire, if they get more than 400 row, you can either set it to kill the player that commits row instead of kicking them, or you can enable row kick. Prevents immediate rejoining of row kick. So it'll kick them for like 5 minutes. Some servers kill, some kick. I prefer kick. If you do the row kick, set it to 500 as high as you can go, because I've seen people get 400 on accidentals and even 500 on accidentals. But if you get 500, it's probably pretty intentional, or you're being stupid. Not that that's something to kick for, but maybe it'll make them pay attention more. Okay, this line here is the default I have for my servers. That's why it's here. But it's what do you want when the person first logs on and is viewing the map from scenic viewpoints. There's an admin message that can pop up. This is what I have. Welcome to, actually, this is the default America's Army one. Welcome to Christian Gaming Internet Server. I used to do, this is a Christian server. Please, no foul language, however you want to word it. Like caps, I'll take all my caps out. No. Please, no foul language or rude comments. Respect all players. I accidentally hit enter, so we'll go ahead and we can hit edit server setup to get back to that. Oops, reset it. I'm not going to worry about that. We can set up that later. You see how to do that, and this down here says message of the day. Message of the day. So that's what message of the day. That's what this is called. Display time. So that would be 30 seconds. I would suggest like. Oops, I'm going up here 15 seconds or so. Jeez, like jumped on me. Okay. Security options enable client code verification and client map verification. It helps with cheating and other security stuff. So go ahead and hit apply and go OK. So all those settings we just saved have been saved for our mountain pass. At this point we could start our server, but before we do so, we need to set up a couple things. Basically, any firewalls you have, including a router firewall or a Norton Internet Security firewall or similar, will block your client, the America's Army game, from accessing your server. So we'll go ahead and shrink that, and we're going to bring up Firefox here, or your internet browser, whatever that is, and we're going to go to your router, but we need to find out where your router is, or what the IP is. So to do so, we're going to open up Network Places, and we're going to, just a minute. So we have our Network Places open. Over here on the left side it says View Network Connections. We're going to view our network connections. And you're going to see probably something similar to this where it says Local Area Connection 2. You may have a Local Area Connection 1. Whatever one you're connected to the internet with, right click on it and hit Status. it should say connected here and be sending and receiving stuff if it is connected. Go ahead and click support up here, and the IP address is the IP of your computer, and default gateway is that of your router. So we show here 192.168.1.1. So we're going to go back to Firefox and go ahead and type that in just as it is. Okay, I go to it enough that it has it there. This is a Linksys router. It does not require, you haven't changed any settings. Default for the Linksys routers is admin for the username and admin for the password. As far as I know, most routers do that, and most routers' default is also 192.168.1.1. That's the default IP for home routers. Default password is admin, ADMIN, for the username, and admin for the password. The second most common password is password, PASSWORD. So go ahead and OK and log into your router. As you can see, it's a Linksys router. Each router will be different, and I will try to go through with you and show for a couple other common routers. For this though, we want to go ahead and hit application and gaming. A lot of them are not going to be called that. They're going to be called like configuration or firewall settings, something of that set. But what we're looking for is this port range forward. We need to forward any connection requests to the router to your server computer. Okay. Under application name, this does not matter. I'm actually going to rename this AASM for America's Army Server Manager. Your start port is 1716. Now, we remember back here we had, when we set up this, we said 1716 right here. That's that port we want. And then the reason I say leave it default is because it can screw up some other things. And the easiest is to just set this at 1716. Your end port is 1717. That is also used by the server for other protocols. The protocol is UDP. You do not need TCP. Just use UDP. And the IP address is the IP address of the computer. If you have your computer set up as a or the router set up as a DHCP server, and so it sets up the IP address for it, you're going to have to go back and manually configure that IP address. But what we are going to do is we had this connection where it said IP address and it gave us this IP address, and what you want to do is type in that IP address. Now, if it says automatically configured, that means the router is a DHCP router. So this will be, it'll change every 24 hours. Now, so that's an issue, but just type, if it says automatically, go ahead and type in what's here. And usually you only have to type in the last letter. Some routers may require the whole thing. Though some routers I've seen, you can do the name of the computer you're on. So like my computer name is called AJ. If that said I can use a computer name, I could type AJ. And then we want to make sure it's enabled here. Click enable once you have everything looking like this. And you don't have to name it AASM. That stands for America's Army Server Manager. You can name it server, you can name it whatever the heck you want. But when you're done with that, go ahead and hit save settings. Is saying. And once it's saved, you want to go to status. Here is most routers call it status. You'll see a page similar to this. It'll give you firmware or whatever. Anyway, it'll give you the router name. But what we're looking for is this IP address here. It should not be a 192.168 IP. It should be something else. 192.168 is an internal IP. If it is, you have some other issues that you can address me personally with. I know a couple people have had that. Anyway, so this IP you want to go ahead and write down, or and eventually you'll have it memorized, but go ahead and write it down. And that's all we need from that page. So if your router password was admin and the username was admin, please change it, but at the same time, please remember it. Security, I believe it's under no administration, sorry. Okay, router password. Because you're using your router as an to route stuff to your computer through port forwarding, you want to make sure this is passworded well, or it could get hacked. And make sure your remote management is disabled, or using the IP you put out there on game servers, they could log in via their computer to your router and screw a lot of stuff up. So this password again should be probably numbers, letters, and at least one capital letter. And you can go access the server. If you want to have this a secure connection, you can hit HTTPS, which is Internet Protocol Secure. Though it does not matter. Okay, we're going to go ahead and close that. And now, if you had an automatic server, an automatic IP assigned to you back under this window, if this says automatically configured, we need to go ahead and manually configure it as it's shown here. So we can go to General here and hit Properties, or as you can see in the background under Network Connections, we can right-click and we can hit Properties. There should be on an average of 4 different things in this window. There may be more, but what you want to find is Internet Protocol TCP/IP, and it may have a 6 at the end of it. Go ahead and Properties. Now, if it's automatic, this here will be clicked like that and like that. Oops, I think I canceled all my settings, but that's okay. But you want to say use the following IP address, and type in the IP address that was automatically configured, and that will make it so you don't run anything over. It's a fine IP address, and we won't have to alter it back under our settings for our port forwarding. Default gateway, that's the your router IP. And your Dean servers, those, oops, I forgot that part. We're back here under your status. Let's go find those, or apply whatever your router status. Okay, Deans 1, Deans 2. Some will just say DNS and then have 2 IPs right in a row, so it looks almost like one really long one. There is 2 there. So these are the 2 IPs you want to go ahead and type into your settings. So 64.105. And if you hit the dot it usually forwards it for you. Or it may not, it just depends. Make sure you get everything in there correctly. And then 67, 188, oops, I hit another properties, 67, 88, 27. Okay, go ahead and hit save on those and close. Now, I didn't change anything, actually I just had to re-put it in because I accidentally deleted them. But once you're done there, you want to bring up your network connections window again. You want to right click on this and hit repair. It refreshes it with your router, so it's still okay. Then bring back this window. You may have to right click and hit status for it. And go to support and make sure here it says manually configured and it's there. Once that's done, go to your internet browser. And we can actually leave that open for laughs. Make sure you're still connected. We'll go to Google here. Oops. Just do something to make sure you're still connected to the internet and everything's still working fine. We'll search for Bob. Okay, if you can do a search, you're still connected to the internet. So go ahead and shrink that. Now, at this point, your router is set up, and we can go ahead and close that. We can close our network connections. We're going to open up our server manager again. We will, at this point, go ahead and check to see if our server is running and accessible from the internet. Our router set up. The only other thing that may be impeding us is a firewall, excuse me, that via Norton or Panda, Zone Alarm, something like that may need to be changed. But I found in most cases, unless it's Norton, they are pretty much automatic, and though may have to be. So we'll choose our server here. I'm actually not going to run the map pass one because it's not quite set up as I will. I believe this one is. Yep. And we're going to hit Start Selected Server. So two things pop up here. These are your settings. Well, these are big. I'm going to shrink these. Running a server setup locally, this is a lot of the information that I just went over. That's the default here. This is some good information here that's pretty easy to and well organized. This is here. It tells us that we see UDP and 1717 are defaults, ports that needed to be opened. It goes through how to do that, and we'll go over registering your internet server in a little bit. And on our server, not sure on that. Actually, I've never checked into that, though I will do that and do that later in this video. We'll go ahead and close our options, and as you can see in this back window, a bunch of stuff is scrolling by. We'll go ahead and go up to the top. Basically, it's just scrolling through its startup services. Oh, there's PB, so we know it started. We'll go up to the top so you can see. It scrolls down, it does all this. At the point you see green. Green is game engine initialized. That's saying your server is running at this point and is accessible from the internet. If you have Punkbuster running, which we'll again work on later, you can this is all the different settings you have set up for it. It's checking stuff. This displays all the settings that you can set in it. We're going to expand this. It's easier to see. And then at the end of it, if you're running an authorized server, it'll say server running in mode 1 and authorized server. Okay? Punkbuster game version 2.810. If that does not say 2.81, and you're running 2.81 America's Army, make sure your server software is up to date, and then tours.ini file is up to date. Okay, we can shrink this. And now, earlier I retrieved the IP, plus I have it memorized from our router. And if you remember, it was 67.101.1.177. So if you close these, the server stops. So we're going to go ahead and open America's Army, and we'll test our server. To do that, for you guys, it will not yet be in the master server list, which is what you look at when you go on to and search for a game in America's Army. Okay, at this point, America's Army does not work with this screen editor or screen capture. So I'm just going to type this here quickly for you. When you open up America's Army and you log in, go ahead and hit your tilde key or whatever your console is. The tilde key, that's what it looks like. It's not very easy to see. Or it also has that on it. It's in the upper left-hand corner of your keyboard. It's right under the escape key. You all should know where it is. Once you hit tilde, it'll have this little thing, and then it'll a blank console. Go ahead and type open space. You can see there's a space there, and then you want your IP address. So for my server, 192.101.177. That is what you will put if you have no pass. And you don't have to put in no password. That's just put in here what is between the quotations. If you have a password, it'll look like this. Open 67.101.1.177, and then whatever your password is. Or not whatever your password, question mark, password equals XXX, whatever your password is, put that in after the equal sign. Okay, so that's what that would look like. Then once that's typed in, go ahead and hit enter. It'll bring up a thing saying like it'll be like a black screen with white letter in the middle that says like connecting to IP address da 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 da. If that does not go to the standard login screen where it says you're logging on to Mount McKenna or Bridge, whatever you're logging on to, and then it'll give you like a hint at the bottom, like if you hit your forward key, your W key, you go forward. It's pretty interesting. Anyway, but yeah, so and then it usually has a cute picture of guys shooting each other or posing for pictures with a Humvee. So if you don't see that within probably 10 seconds, it's not logging on correctly. You can, if you have a little slower server, a little slower computer, go ahead and let it sit a little longer. After so long, America's Army will cancel it and say it could not find the server, could not log on, whatever. If that happens, make sure you have everything set up properly, and if that is so good, go ahead and PM me, come talk to me, find me somewhere, and I will make sure everything's correct and set up correctly, and any other things that may be special to your case. I had a case with one of the clan members where he has a double router, double firewall that needs to be altered. If you have a router other than Linksys, go ahead and talk to me. I can find information online. It's not that hard, actually. If
Staff Sergeant Whitney Staglet.
If you have a on your browser, if you have like a Westel, someone had a Westel, there it was. I can't type Westel 2200 manual. There you go. It brings up a list of here. If you don't know what you're looking for is this port triggering. So you want to find it. This one. I actually never found this one before. It'll go through it with you. There's sometimes you have to find one, like the one I used, I believe, for the Westel was actually one to set it up using for Emule or other download programs. It gives you like, says put in this port, put in this port. Just don't put in the ports that it tells you. Put in the ports you want, which is standard is 1716 and 1717. If you still can't figure it out, go ahead and come talk to me. Past that, we'll do authorization and server authorization and Punkbuster setup in another tutorial. Thank you, and hope you guys enjoyed it.